The funny thing is, it is its own holiday. I've heard of people that happens like this, Gary, that they schedule surgeries or time off work. I mean, not time off work, but like schedule things that need to get done for this weekend so they can just sit around and watch basketball all day.
Yeah, and people schedule weddings around KU basketball games. They don't want to have people rushing to the hotel bar to see the score during the wedding reception, because that's why people want the schedule so early. They want to make sure nothing major is scheduled around a KU basketball game. So it'll be good to see some people show up in Tulsa. Last night, after the game, I was walking around looking for a place to get something to eat, and it was pretty deserted here downtown, but all the hotels are sold out, so I know the people are looming here somewhere.
Yeah, well, and again, this is, if you want to talk about holidays, one of the biggest days of the year, and then one of the biggest days of the year for KU basketball, starting this NCAA tournament, Gary. And we were able to talk to the players yesterday over at the BOK Center, a couple blocks that way. So what were the main impressions? I know you mostly hung around Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson, obviously, as everybody knows, was suspended for the Big 12 tournament game against TCU. KU ended up not winning that game, and so you saw the clips of him on the bench, and he hadn't talked since then. You talked to him. There's an article on the site you talking about the distractions or the off-court distractions that this team has faced, and then also Josh Jackson going through that one-game suspension. I want to get to a quick video clip that you guys can see for yourself. Josh Jackson in the locker room, kind of taking you there with us and with Gary as they're asking questions. The reporters there, him talking about the situation, him talking about how he handled the situation being suspended and how he thinks it should be handled moving forward. So I want to get to a quick video clip of Josh Jackson and him talking in the locker room yesterday before KU's game today against UC Davis.
Josh, this whole team has had a lot of off-court distractions this whole season. Is that going to play into this tournament at all?
At all? Nope. I don't think so. Not one bit.
Do you feel like some of the things that each seemingly daily come out about your particular situation, maybe especially the one at the yacht club, has provided a distraction? Do you have any comments on the continuing sort of drip of information?
I have no comment on the drip of information that's still coming out, but I don't think it's really a distraction at all. I think it was when it first came out, but it happened so long ago, and I honestly don't see any reason to keep talking about it. It's already over. It's said and done.
Well, it's not really over because the case hasn't been adjudicated, so you feel like it is old business?
It's old business.
Were you ever disappointed in yourself over some of the stuff that's coming?
Definitely, I was. I felt like I made a couple mistakes that, definitely could have been avoided, small mistakes. But nothing I can do about it now. Just not make the same mistakes again. Well, one of the things he always tells us is, when we find ourselves in a sticky situation, just to give him a call and try to get, the best advice we can from him. And that was one of the things that I didn't do. And a lot of the things that happened could have been avoided. But as far as just making mistakes, like I said, he knows that we learn from our mistakes and just trying not to make the same mistakes again.
So that's Josh Jackson talking about the potential, his suspension and discussing what happened with that suspension at KU and kind of him moving forward in the tournament. I didn't want to get to another thing from Monty here on Facebook Live. He talked about Jim Les and his history against KU. I believe it's 11 years exactly to this day. His team, Bradley, beat KU and Self's team in the NCAA tournament first round. KU was a 4 seed, Bradley was a 13 seed. And kind of talking about his, quote, success against KU, it is interesting, if you beat KU as the coach of Bradley, that should get you a lot of leash at Bradley, and yet, a couple years later, he wasn't there anymore, has moved on to UC Davis, and so, I guess, what do you think about that history, Gary? Is there anything to make of that? Again, I've already kind of talked about how this UC Davis team doesn't particularly impress me statistic-wise, but there is kind of an interesting storyline there that this coach does have a history against Kansas and has beaten Kansas in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, he could use that, I guess, if he wanted to, tell his team, I've beaten KU. But I don't think they'll be intimidated to where I'll have to mention that much. But, yeah, he's beaten them. He's got a chance to do it with 2 different schools now. He did say that on the plane before they took off, some of the Bradley guys called to congratulate him after they beat NC Central the other night. And his wife reminded them that they won or something like that.
Yeah, well, no, there's another good story. He said that right before the end, he took his minute on the podium and made sure he had like his 1 minute of fame, because he said that his daughter texted him and that her chemistry teacher had told them that if UC Davis beats Kansas, that everybody gets A's in the class for the upcoming test. And so she texted her dad and said, "Dad, it's time to step up." So he said he's coaching for chemistry today, hoping that he can get his daughter and his daughter's entire class A's for the assignment. I think that, again, kind of going from what I've said, I think that teacher is in good shape. He's kind of like Warren Buffett, where you offer $1 billion to the bracket winner knowing nobody's going to pick the bracket winner. He's offering A's to everyone in his class because he knows he's not going to have to give A's to everybody in his class.
Yeah, but it's funny.
Yeah, it is funny kind of using that moment. Again, at least gives a good story, and we can put it into a note. Let's look ahead, Gary. Miami, Michigan State, going to be the matchup for KU on Sunday, barring the biggest upset in NCAA tournament history.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on those two teams? Again, we talk about coaches with history against KU, or just history in the NCAA tournament in general. Miami has Jim Larrañaga. Michigan State has Tom Izzo. So what do you think about a potential matchup against those two teams?
I think Izzo was saying yesterday it's time for his team to grow up, his young team, and they're ready to take that next step and maybe make a splash here. Miami, I haven't studied them much yet, but I think they beat both Duke and North Carolina. Did they?
Yeah, and
that's pretty big right there. I mean, so with all the close games KU's had this year, if they play Miami, you would think that would really be close. Michigan State, I think KU's 2-4 against Izzo in the Self era, because they run into each other a lot in that Champions Classic and stuff. A lot of KU fans want that game because they want to beat, start to beat Michigan State more regularly, like they're starting to do Kentucky. KU's had more success against Kentucky lately. But I think Miami's going to win, which will probably, again, guarantee Michigan State will win. But I think Miami will win that game. And like I said, that means Michigan State will win.
Yeah, well, that's what you think. I'm the same way, Gary. I've kind of mentioned this in the past. I think with KU's bracket, when people ask me about it, I think that KU maybe didn't get lucky with its draw, but I think they didn't get unlucky with their draw, at least in the first two rounds, because, again, Miami and Michigan State, KU coach Bill Self and Landon Lucas have talked about how they kind of like having a name school there so that they aren't surprised by a Missouri Valley team. They will get motivated when they see Michigan State or Miami across from them. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is these two schools are going to be 10 to 12-point underdogs against Kansas in this game. And if you are Kansas in the round of 32 playing a game basically 3 hours down from Lawrence, you got to win that game.
Yeah.
And so, Izzo, I know people think, okay, Izzo in the tournament, he has a history of success and all those things, but this is not a normal Izzo team. This team lost 14 games in a bad Big Ten. I mean, I know they schedule really hard in the non-conference. He always does that. But like you said, I think he's still looking for more growth from his team, and this is not the time of year where you're begging your guys to get some growth. This is the time of year you want to be playing your best. And so, again, Izzo can't get out on the court and play. I mean, that's the problem for Michigan State. And then, Miami, like you said, they have some big wins on their resume, but at the same time, if KU plays them, they're probably going to be a 10-point favorite. And if you're a 10-point favorite in the tournament, some things can go bad, some teams can make shots, but you still got to win the game. And so I really like KU's chance of getting the Sweet 16. Could be a tough matchup once you get there against either Purdue or Iowa State. It has to be either Purdue or Iowa State since both those teams won yesterday. Iowa State potentially could be kind of in its backyard with all the fans coming down from Ames, and Purdue offers a tough matchup with Caleb Swanigan, who's one of the premier big men scorers in the nation, and we've seen KU have problems with that. But, like you said, I think Miami is going to win the game. Probably means Michigan State will win it. But either way, I think KU should be confident enough in itself to know that they're going to be a favorite enough that something bad would happen, very, very, very bad would have to happen for them to lose that game.
And for preview, already Josh Jackson was asked about Michigan State yesterday because he's from Detroit.
That's a good point, too.
It was the Michigan guys who were probably already seeking save some stuff
working
if they
ahead.
play,
That's what you're supposed to do,
or get some notes. But Josh knows he rattled off 3 or 4 or 5 of their players that he knows pretty well, and he didn't say it would put extra pressure on himself, but he said it would be fun to play those guys. So again, Josh has been in the news a lot, and he'll be a focus probably of that game because he's from Detroit, and he was a Michigan State fan when he was growing up.
Let's get to a few of the individual players, Gary. One important person, I think, and this might have been where one of the few positive benefits from that loss, at least when it comes to the actual game and what happened, was Stu Mikhailuk. I know a lot of concern about him lately. His defenses seemed to slump toward the end of the season. He hasn't been staying in front of players as well as he had early on, and then his shot was really not on for most of the second half of the Big 12 season. But yet, in that game, he steps up and makes 4 of 8 3-pointers, gets a little bit back on track offensively. What do you think that game could potentially do for Stu Mikhailuk?
I think that helps him. He did snap out of his slump, definitely. He scored 13 points out of the first 24, I think, for KU. And then it stopped for a while, but he had his first double-figure game, points-wise, in a while. Self had been challenging him because Self, a few weeks ago, told the media they had a talk asking Svi if he would be more comfortable coming off the bench. Well, that catches a player's attention.
Yes.
By him saying, ooh, coach is thinking about making me a reserve now. So he even came out aggressive before the TCU game in some other game, but he got 2 fouls right away, I remember, after Self had that talk with him. So I think that caught his attention, and he busted the slump against TCU. Defensively, I don't know if he can step up enough in the postseason, but they're going to have to start getting some stops, and he's going to have to do something defensively. I could see Graham being the pick to click tonight.
There you go.
He could score 24 points. Everybody talking about him, looking good out there. If I had to pick one, it would be him, and hopefully for his sake he's not listening because the jinx is on.
Yeah, the jinx is on. Gary Bedore said that he is the White Sox pick to click. That's an old Hawk Harrelson thing, right, Gary?
Yes.
You can put it on the board. Yes. So anyway, you talk about Devontae Graham and again fitting in. I mean, how can you blame him? The team's 28-4. They've won a bunch of games. They got a #1 seed. I'll go ahead and give you my pick to click, or as the Quick Scout says, the Hawk to Rock, which is kind of the KU version of the pick to click. I think it's Josh Jackson, just because if KU gets after him defensively, he can create steals. He's good in transition. He's going to be the most athletic player on the floor the entire game. He's going to be going at somebody who's shorter than him. It seems like he has a potential there for a big game as long as he can avoid the foul trouble that sometimes has plagued him. I'll go ahead and put you on the spot here, Gary, before we get out of here. Score prediction for tonight. Go ahead. Jinx everyone.
You got to go high, I guess. I mean, K-State scored 95 the other night, and the Big 12's been handling its business so far. So 109 comes to mind.
Wow, there you go.
But I think that's what they got last year against Austin Peay. 105 last year. So 109 to 76. But again, that means it's probably 82 to 79 KU in a nail biter. But I'll go with the route.
Okay. That's Murphy's Law, right?
Yeah, Murphy's Law.
Whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
I don't really have a personal jinx. That's what I've been trying to say.
Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Whatever we say will happen.
Yeah.
Usually the opposite happens. That's what's so tough about doing the Quick Scout every game, is that I want to be right, and then when usually you think you know something about something, it goes up very wrong. I got 91-65 for KU tonight. The spread is 23.5. I still think it's a rout. And remember, this could kind of factor in as well that KU's walk-ons who haven't played in it seems like a year could get in the game, and they might be a little rusty as well. They might give some of those points back. So I'll go with KU in a rout. This game, again, we'll see who they play from there, Miami or Michigan State. But either way, that game will be in Tulsa here on Sunday, and you can get your continued coverage. Again, if nothing else, go check out Sam Ellinger's story on the behind-the-scenes look of KU basketball. You can check that on KansasCity.com. Check our stories out also at KansasCity.com, on the KU Hoops app, totally free online, the Google App Store or the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. But thanks for joining us here live from Tulsa, where KU is going to get ready to take on UC Davis tonight. Thanks to Shane and Rich both for the support behind the scenes here with Facebook Live, and everyone else back at 1729 Grand in Kansas City who helped with the production. But like I said, thanks for checking out Facebook Live here from Tulsa, and be sure to check out all the coverage at the Kansas City Star.